Hey guys, we are here with episode number 3, and we have another special guest. We might be going to church today, possibly. But we have Hambric Brooks here. He's with First Baptist, pastor of First Baptist Church here in Forsyth. And he's a little bit of a tricky person. He tried to sneak in on us the other day. He came to our shop to order some stuff, and we didn't even know it was him. So
he got us.
He lost 60 pounds?
Yeah.
60 pounds
and shaved.
And shaved. I mean,
yeah.
We're like, who's this kind of hipster guy just came into
Hipster,
yeah. And then somebody told on us, so we got called out about it. So
they had to confess, yeah.
But yeah, we have Hambric Brooks. We appreciate you coming on. We're going to dive in some good questions today. Not just about church. We're really about, again, the community. So we're going to have some really good questions. And we're excited to dive in on this one. So
sounds good.
Cool. So first thing we always do is this rapid fire question. I ask you just a few questions. Give me the first thing that pops to your mind. It might be a this or that or just a one question thing. So let's just dive right into it. First thing first, if you were given endless money right now, what would you do with it?
Pay off all my bills.
I'll take that. King James Version or English Standard Version?
Neither.
Uh-oh.
Can I ask which one?
Common English.
I typically use either the NIV or the New Revised Standard Version.
Cool. Day or night?
Depends on the day.
You're making this complicated.
You're making these complicated. All right.
That's hard to answer, man.
Okay.
Day or night.
If you had to choose it to be all dark all the time or all night all the time, I mean,
Go with that.
or
probably daylight.
okay.
Daylight.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Book or movie?
Movie.
Beer or wine?
That's a tough one.
Oh.
I would say beer, though.
Okay.
or whiskey.
Well, just on that topic, like being a preacher and having a beer, it seems to be there's some like taboo around you having a beer. Like, what are your thoughts about that? I just love to hear your opinion on that.
Man, you put me on the hot seat straight out of the gate.
You gotta do it. You gotta dive in. You know,
We're stirring up some stuff in
for me, one of the first miracles in Scripture was Jesus turning water into wine, and it was a plentiful amount of wine. There was a party going on. It was a wedding. I think you have times of celebration, and as long as, if you look at Scripture, as long as you're not a drunkard and continually causing problems through your drinking, I think that it's okay to have a drink, and I think that it's okay for people to partake. They just need to be mindful. Sometimes there's a slippery slope, and sometimes it can cause people a lot of problems in their family and in their life, and so you just have to
get carried away and lose control with it?
Yeah, you just got to be mindful. You don't need to be dancing on tables or anything at the closing out last call.
Fun church.
Yeah, you don't need to be doing any of those type of things for in communities and doing that. You need to be careful and thoughtful about things like that. So
Gotcha. Well, that was the last one on the rapid fire, but I guess let's go ahead and kind of jump into some of the deeper questions there and really get into it. What really called you, being a preacher, obviously, what called you into ministry, and why Forsyth? What got you here as well?
Man, it's been a journey. Whenever I was a kid, I felt called into ministry. I can't really explain how, but as a child, I remember being at I was raised in a Christian home. My parents were very involved in church my whole life, and still are. I mean, they still are very involved in their church. But there comes a point in life where you try to figure out what you're supposed to do with your life. And, I wanted to be a millionaire, retired by the time I was 35 and, just living the dream, but, as I was going through college and all, it just seemed like I kept hopping back and forth to different majors. I think I ended up having 4 majors before I finally settled on therapeutic recreation. So
what is that?
My parents paid for me to go to college and learn how to play. No, but
so you like play with like Play-Doh or something?
Therapeutic recreation was sort of like you would work in, say, a substance abuse facility or in a nursing home or things like that, and give people different alternatives to substance abuse, or give them alternatives to healthy lifestyles, telling them to be active and relieve stress in healthy ways and things of that nature.
Now, where did you go to school?
I went to Georgia Southern,
Okay.
Hell Southern. All right.
Me too. I dropped out though.
I went to Gordon, so I don't.
Away.
I don't have a dog in this fight.
I went to Georgia Southern, and then I left there, and we moved out. I went to work for a little while at Ogeechee Technical College there, doing GED education, adult education at night, teaching GED classes and doing a thing called the Job Training Partnership Act, where basically you'd go into a plant that was closing, and from that plant we would retrain workers to be able to find other jobs. But back to the original question, felt called at a young age. Being a preacher wasn't the cool thing to do. Whenever you're growing up as a teenager, you've got all those pressures of trying to be, cool and all that kind of stuff. And I remember as I was going through those teenage years, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that preacher that's up on that pedestal that, it seems like everybody's trying to knock them off, And so I was like, I don't want to be that guy, and so I sort of ran from ministry, ran pretty hard, had some times in my life that it was fun, but I don't want to relive them. I made some mistakes and some things like that, but as a college student, I probably was 21, I was married already and had a child. I was 21, 22, and was involved in a Bible study with a bunch of men, and we, as I studied God's Word, that yearning in my life sort of came back, to being called into ministry, and I was working full time at a technical college, and I interned as a youth pastor at my church I grew up in, and whenever I did my internship there, I just sort of fell in love with students and kids, just trying to help them navigate life and trying to help them make wise choices and things of that nature. And so I was working there part-time, working at a technical college full-time, and ended up to where I couldn't wait to get off work at my real job to go do this other job that I was getting paid like $100 a month for, And so I was like trying to get there and do stuff with the kids and just make a difference in their lives. And I finally just said, you know what, I'm tired of running. I need to this is what I'm called to do. And so I ended up leaving there, me and my wife and my first daughter, we sold everything we had and packed up and moved to Texas and went to school out at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary out there.
Were you a Texas fan when you were out there?
No.
I'm still a little butthurt from the Sugar Bowl, but that's just me.
I've always been to be honest with you, I've always been an Eagle fan because I grew up in Statesboro. And so I've seen that program from the very beginning. And I've always been a huge Georgia Southern fan. But for years, I've always been a Georgia fan also. And I have a daughter that's at UGA now. And I got another one that's going in the fall. So I'm going to be a Georgia fan for a while.
Yeah. Potentially for life,
Yeah, but that's how I got called into ministry. It was sort of a gradual process, and as I worked with teenagers for probably 18 years as a youth pastor, and loved it. I mean, I think that's probably one of the highest callings is, working with teenagers and making a difference in their life, because they're at a real vulnerable time in life trying to figure out, their journey and all. And, but I found out, everybody's down on teenagers and on the youth of the world today. Oh, they're terrible and all this. And I'm like, man, it's not the teenagers, it's the people that are raising them.
Yeah, it is.
It's the parents. We need to step up and do our job. And so through that process, I started
to fix the parents.
Yeah. I thought, hey, maybe I could move a little bit and try to fix the parents. No, it was sort of an interesting time in my life. I had 2 children that had gone through my youth ministry and had a third one that was in there. And as a dad and a father, and also as their spiritual leader, you want them to have some other influences in their life besides just you. And so I decided to step out of that role and move more towards the pastoral role. And, I still go with our youth on winter retreat and things of that nature, just because I like being around them, and I like to hear their ideals and what's going on in their world. But I also like pouring into adults and trying to help them navigate life.
Yeah, because, I mean, ultimately, that can make the biggest impact. If you can impact the parents, that changes the whole dynamic of the whole family.
Right.
And like you said, that is it. I mean, the kids...
Personally, I think a lot of the downfall to our society that everybody, we have a bright future still in the United States today, but a lot of people go, well, oh man, it's just so different than it used to be. But I think personally, a lot of that starts at home. You've got to, you want to be able to instill values into your children in your home.
So how did you were out in Texas, you were transitioning from youth pastor to, actual being head pastor. How did you end up in Forsyth? And I know you've only been here for what, a year and a half?
Yeah, in May it'll be 2 years.
2 years, okay. So how did you end up in Forsyth?
Well, okay, so we moved back from Texas to Georgia, moved to a little town called Haddock, Georgia. It's in between Milledgeville and Gray. And went there to work as a youth pastor there. My wife's mother had been diagnosed with lung cancer, and so she was ill, and we moved back to Georgia to sort of be close to her. At that point in our life, we had 2 children by then, and we wanted, them to be able to know their grandparents a little bit and things of that nature. And so we moved back. I began working at Haddock, and was a great time there, time of growth for me. But after about 3 years, we left there and went to Griffin, Georgia. And I was excited about going to Griffin at first, a little bit bigger town, a little different. And so we went there and ended up being there for 15 years. That wasn't my plan. My plan was to be there about 4 and move on. But it was just always a new challenge. While I was there, that's where I actually transitioned from youth pastor to pastor. And there was always a new challenge that was set before me. And so it was interesting. I'm a person that likes challenges and to be to be stretched a little bit, and there was always something stretching me there. While I was there, I did my doctorate, and my doctorate was in revitalizing churches, helping churches that are going down, which most of the churches in our world today seem to be decreasing in attendance levels, and so my dissertation was on revitalizing churches. And so while I was there, I did that and did my doctorate. And, when I was done, I felt like, what, I want to just sort of put this to practice a little bit and figure out, let's see if what I actually wrote is any good. Let's figure out if it works.
Yeah.
And so, I started sort of looking around a little bit at various church opportunities, and I had some offers on the table from churches in Florida and other places, and then I spoke with some folks about Forsyth, and Forsyth First Baptist Forsyth has a pretty rich history. It has the Tift College connection and a lot of things of that nature. Before I got here, there was some issues, and the church sort of declined in attendance and things of that nature. And so, talking to the committee, we just sort of clicked and hit it off. And through that process, through a lot of prayer, man, I tell you, because I had two options. I either had to go to a larger church than where I was at in Florida and sort of keep climbing that ladder, or stay, in the Georgia area. I've got some parents that are aging, and I've got a brand new grandbaby that came last week, and so got a lot of connections in this area that I sort of wanted to stay around and be close to. And anyway, through prayer and discernment, we decided that Forsyth was the place for us at this time. And in our ministry, it's been an interesting 2 years. There's been a lot of ups, there's been a few downs, but primarily things have been pretty good. Anytime you're taking a church that has been in decline and in traditions that have been set for years, and trying to change that a little bit and trying to tweak it and trying to experience growth, there's always some pushback and things of that nature. But
so before the podcast, we kind of mentioned a little bit. We kind of talked just for hair about the whole community idea. Mm-hmm. I think that's something we need to talk about as far as, what does it mean? You said you're working trying to change some of the old mindset to some of the new, like we talked a little about, like, what does that mean for a church versus church being a building versus a church being a community? What does that look like to you?
Well, all right. So I think the church is us. I don't think the church is the building. I think the church is people. And I think that community comes from various different ways. The old way that you would develop community would be like through small groups and things of that nature. Today, it seems like that people are looking for a cause. People are looking for something to support, and so I started looking around Forsyth and trying to figure out, what is a need here in Forsyth? What's something that needs to be fulfilled, and how can the church fulfill that, and in the same time that develop community among the people within our congregation and within the community itself. And I found that there's a need for food, basically, not just restaurants. I know we need those, but
that's a whole nother podcast.
But I'm talking about, there's a lot of people that don't have children and things like that don't have food to eat, and their basic needs aren't met. And so,
speaking of that, I don't want to cut you off. I need to link it below. I just saw where Forsyth is doing the backpack thing.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll link that below if you are interested in helping out with the whole idea of the I believe how it works.
It's backpack buddies.
Yeah. That works basically to have kids to have food once summer's here, right?
Well, it actually is every weekend.
Okay.
When kids go home from school
they don't have
on the weekend,
they
don't have a typical lunch and things of that nature. And so the backpacks are packed for them for each weekend. And then they bring the backpacks back on Monday. We get them back, and then we fill them up again for the following weekend.
And I haven't heard anything about it, so I think that's
cool.
I
just saw Mandy King. I think Mandy was the one that posted it.
Yeah.
I'll try to put that down in the comments so way everybody can kind of look at that. So are you guys directly involved with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our church does that.
Okay.
We do that. We do Meals on Wheels, which is for elderly people in our community that they are able to get lunches on Tuesdays and Thursdays from the church. They actually deliver them to them and things of that nature. We do a lot of things like that, but a new initiative that we're talking about doing is our community garden. We are hoping to start that. Actually, this Sunday we're going to kick off a initiative to sort of raise some funds to help with that. Everybody's going to, y'all help develop the logo for us.
That would be Gator.
I did do that.
I'm over here slaving on T-shirts. Okay?
But we will actually have like cans that people are all going to take home with them this weekend, and they just basically collect their spare change and put them in it, and then on March 31st they're going to bring it back, and on that day we're going to have one church service, and it'll be earlier in the morning, and have breakfast together, and then we're going to go out and do work in our community on that Sunday. That'll be a day that we actually start some of the community garden plots, and but also, go work at in the nursing homes, and maybe bake cookies and take it to our first responders, and maybe go clean the side of the streets, maybe build handicap ramps at homes, whatever the needs that present themselves before that day, we're going to do, and just make a difference. Try to be the hands and feet of Christ in the community, and what better day to do it than on Sunday, when you're already utilizing that day to go to church and be at worship and things of that nature, but it's a day we can actually just go out and make a difference. So
you say you're going to be like coffee cans, basically, or
we ordered them online, man. They're like, probably the size of like a Coke can or something, and a little slit in them, and we'll put the...
Bring us one by here. We'll
okay.
Put one in here.
All right.
There will be one here.
All right.
Once it's happening.
And no one is still coming out a free koozie. I guess no one likes koozies.
No one likes koozies.
I'll take one before I leave.
Gotcha.
Somebody came and got like 6 of them. I'm like, all right, whatever. No one else just came and got them, so take them.
There you have the 6 from everybody else.
So a little bit more about the garden. Where I know, so that's going out in the park, right? Is that part of that one, or?
No, this actually going to be at the. We've got a lot of green space around our church, and I haven't heard about one at the park. I wish.
There's one supposedly. The new
there's
park
been
renovation.
project plans that was for the city park out near the splash pad. And
I don't know much about it.
I really don't know much about it. It pretty much showed like a plot of everything that's going on out there, and one of the sections was a community garden.
That doesn't mean
I
it's
can't give
happening in the
any
first
info on it,
phase.
but that is supposedly a thing that's going to happen.
Okay, all right. Well, I haven't heard about that.
I love community gardens. I think that's such a cool idea. So I always brag about the city of Lovejoy. I don't know if anyone will ever listen to this from Lovejoy, but my dad works up there, does engineering and stuff, and they have the most amazing community garden.
Huh? Where's it
really
at? No.
So Lovejoy is like...
I know where Lovejoy is.
It's not far.
So it's by the jail. If you go across from the jail, it's literally the whole entire... They got like a nice little building they've built, and all behind that is just this massive garden. And I mean, it's just like they do a great job with it. I mean...
Now, what's the purpose... Excuse me. What's the purpose behind that? Is it for people to have a place to plant their garden if they don't have space, or is it to feed the community?
I think it's to feed the community.
Okay.
From what I gather, they go out and they pick it and have it in big things, and they go out and hand it out to whoever may need it, and people can come by and buy it at, like, I guess, cheaper. I don't really know. I'm just kind of making this up because I don't really know. I just know that it's done really well, and it's been a huge thing for the community. Like, it's been one of those deals where, like, it's a big focus of there. So it may be one of those things, take a trip up there and just talk.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
The mayor up there, he's super nice, and we've talked to him. We used to do their police car, so that's how we used to talk about that, and we'd always go out there and see the garden. So, but it's a really cool setup. The community garden thing is such a neat idea, and I think Forsyth could absolutely use that.
Well, for us, I've had people say, well, so is this for people that need a place to plant their garden and that's not our purpose behind it. Our purpose is for us to come together, work together with people in our community. If they want to come and participate and work together, you don't have to come to our church. That's not the idea behind this. It's just a way for us to develop community together and to meet a need. I mean, it's to actually help people who, don't have access to fresh vegetables and things of that nature. And I know that sounds simple to a lot of us, but, most people, when they're on fixed incomes, it's easier to take a processed food, and it's a lot cheaper to be able to feed a lot of people with ramen noodles, or something of that nature, rather than...
I do love some ramen.
I do too, actually, but to feed a lot of people rather than have the access to fresh food. And so, this is a way to have access and to help people. We hope to supplement, and we haven't made these connections yet because we're still in the very early stages of things. But, we hope to be able to help some of the local food banks and supplement that, and be able to maybe work with other ministries in the area and be able to help, supplement their ministries and help people in need. So that's our goal behind it.
Yeah. Is there a way that we can help promote this? I mean, like, is there something about it on a web page, or is this something that's just so new that there's not much out there?
We are in the process of redeveloping our webpage. So if y'all go to our webpage, forgive me, it doesn't look the greatest at this time. But we're in the process of redeveloping that, and there'll be more information to come. We're still
just kind of wait. It's coming.
We're still like I said, this weekend is sort of the official kickoff of saying, hey guys, this is something we're all gonna do and support and make a difference in the community through. So.
Gotcha. So to kind of branch off of that, one thing that obviously we decided to talk, and I'll talk about this later too, is it's the en route podcast, which means the whole idea is to always be growing and moving forward. One thing that I kind of thought of it yesterday. So it was my birthday yesterday, and just
happy birthday.
I'm not trying to bring my wife into this and shining light, make her seem bad, and it's not. But like, on your birthday, people just treat you different. It's a little bit of that, like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit nicer today. And so, like, I just been noticing over, like,
I wasn't. I forgot to do it.
Gator.
Well, you should sing to it right now.
I was like, no, I'm not singing. This podcast will be no longer if I start singing. Right
and I'm not that guy. So I'm not the guy that, like, needs that. Like, I don't need to have that, like.
You sound like you are right now.
Okay, maybe. Maybe I am that guy. I'm emotional, guys. Okay, I don't want to break down on the podcast, so leave me a little bit of room here. But anyways, it kind of started making me like think of, like, what if everyone treated everyone like it was a special day for them? It's so easy to just come into work or be part of that community and just truly think about yourself. It's so easy to be selfish in today's community. So one thing for me is, like, how can we truly, like, do that and influence others? I feel like it's so easy just to get stuck in that kind of rut of just for yourself. And we're guilty of that. And I think, to me, like, doing this podcast has humbled me. I don't know how Gator, but it's humbled me a lot in the sense of, like, man, we were so like, our business was all about us. And is there a way, like, personally that, I mean, just from your perspective, just moving and being in all these different areas and being in different positions in church, especially like the youth stuff, like, what are some things?
Man, for me, one of the biggest things that has changed me and my perspective on life is serving others. All right. If you look at, and, as a Christian, my directive is Christ. I try to strive to be like Christ. And, he said, hey, I came to serve, not to be served. And so that was one of the his main objectives, and he tells us, the greatest command is to love God, but also to love others. And so my thought is, man, anytime that you can do something to help your fellow man, to serve someone, we don't wake up in the morning and go, oh man, I'm going to serve somebody today. You just have to take that step and start doing it. And then it becomes natural to you, and it becomes a part of your life. And I think it changes. It changes your perspective on how you see people. You start seeing people as God sees them. You start seeing people in a different light. And, for me, if I can help someone see or catch the vision of serving others and making a difference in someone else's life, what you end up finding out is it changes your life more than it changes theirs. Yeah. I've been involved with various mission organizations and things of that nature, and had the privilege to, travel to numerous places on mission trips. And, everybody goes, they start thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go there and make a difference in those people's lives. But anytime you listen to their testimony when you get back, they say, man, my life has changed, and it was changed because they gave of themselves, and they served. And that's I think that's the key in our society today. We live in a very selfish,
It's a
society. And I mean, you think about it, you used to have front porches with rocking chairs and people sat on them and drank sweet tea and talked and, and had conversation. Now you pull up to your house, you hit the garage remote, you go inside the garage, you close the remote, you go inside your home. And if you cook or anything, you're going to go onto the back porch in your fenced backyard that's isolated from everybody else. And you are cooking for you and your family, and that's it, And, if we would knock down some of those fences and start inviting the neighbors over, it'd make a big difference.
So, like, from a business perspective, like, I know a church is very, well, I would say most are, in a sense. A church can be somewhat welcoming in that sense. For the most part, people greeting, and some churches don't do it as good as others, but I feel like it's a very important part. But like for a business, like it's so frustrating when you walk into a business and like you just get treated like, okay, all right, and you just don't feel helped.
Don't talk bad about McDonald's like that.
But it's so easy. And again, we got caught up in this because there's times where we've done it here, and it's like, and then you start doing, like you said, it changes us. You start doing these podcasts and you just start feeling that, like, you start giving back, and, we're doing this for free and we're trying to help other businesses and stuff. And then you just start looking back and it's like, what can it do if every business did this? If the first person you met at the business treated you like, I know it sounds cliche, but like it was your birthday in a sense, like it was your special day, like how much of a change that could make in a community, not just the church, but the businesses. I think the businesses need to be communities too. And like you said,
the old slogan of the customer's always right has sort of gone out the window. People, there's a drive-through here in town that just drives me insane, man. I go up there and I get food for my son or something, and you go to the window and you pay and you leave, and they don't even say thank you. And I'm like, I could have gone somewhere else. There's a lot of fast food restaurants in Forsyth.
Oh yeah, just
I could have gone somewhere else. And I think that goes a long ways. I think that you.
I mean, look at Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A is the prime example.
I mean,
you go there,
my pleasure. You're treated.
And even if it's like your birthday every day.
Even if it seems like sometimes I make fun of them when I'm in the drive, like, my pleasure. I kind of do it just to make fun of them, but it really makes a difference.
No, it does.
It really makes a difference. And I think I'm not like talking bad about Forsyth. I just think it's a little old school in a sense, but like I feel like some of that's not I wouldn't even say Forsyth. I'd say in general, like you said, people have lost that whole idea that this is about the community. It's about other people. It's not just about making money and growing this business and trying to become this thing. And I think even your older businesses that have been planted here forever, they're comfortable making what they're making. They're good where they're at. They're good with the customers they already have. And it just comes off as like, okay, I'll send somebody out. All right. Like, it just seems, and I don't want to call any certain business out because I think, it's a hard thing to accomplish, but, it just, I wish I knew because we're up in McDonough yesterday and I can't even remember where we're at up there, but one of the places we went to, just that's how I was treated. We walked in and it was just like, it felt so just like, I don't want to help you. Here I am about to spend money at your place, and it's like, you don't want me to spend money at your place.
Yeah, I tend to, if I go into a place like to, go shopping or whatever, and the person doesn't try to be helpful, I usually just walk out and go somewhere else. And I don't have to, I don't have to be your doormat or whatever for you not to treat me well. There's plenty of other ways. And I think that's why Amazon's done so well. People don't even have to leave home. They can just shop and they don't have to deal with it. But, it's sad because none of us have the right to treat anybody disrespectfully. None of us do. We don't have that right in life. You're not supposed to do that, and it's just, you're supposed to treat people polite and treat people well. You're supposed to love your neighbor,
most importantly.
And so, I think if we would just go back to the basics of caring for one another and just, you don't even have to care, just be polite. Be respectful. It would make a huge difference in our society and in our world. And it's not just Forsyth, man. It's everywhere. It's just
I just like to say Forsyth because we're
here. I get it. Yeah. But it's everywhere. It's just the way things have seemed to develop.
That's just
today.
society and the way sadly, it's kind of going. But I think we all need to be, like, not just us, but in general, like, be the change. And I say that all the time, but no matter if it's small town like Forsyth or if you go to Atlanta, like,
it begins with us.
It starts with each individual. You make an impression on everybody you come in contact with, and if everybody that you come in contact with goes like, that's a really nice person, like, I could enjoy being around them, like, be that change so that everybody else would strive to be that way. Although we are going to fall short some days and lose our tempers and stuff. But
it's not always
we all make mistakes, man. I mean,
I'm just curious though, and we're going to do it. And I really just want to take like this for 2019 for our business. Our whole idea is really with this podcast and everything. I know I've probably talked about this before, but it's truly to like, can we change perspective of our business to be like, okay, let's give and then we will receive from that, instead of let's try to get. And then, you know what I mean? Like, you try to get those sales and you try to get those orders. What if you gave and that just came because of the giving? And I think that's kind of the perspective for us is, you know, I still get asked, why are y'all doing this stuff? And even somebody asked me, how much are y'all charging? I'm like, we're not charging anything. Like, how much y'all going to charge to come to our place and do a review? Nothing. And it's like, I think it is crazy because in a sense, but it takes a lot of hours. I mean, even the podcast, I mean, you got a lot of hours and we talked about that before, like editing and all, but I'm just curious at how it will pay off and if it's a different. I just feel better about it. Like just the past few months of doing this, like I told Gator, this has probably been the best 3 months of our business just because of my mindset has just been different.
I think it's the most fulfilling. You feel different.
Well, and I think a lot of it goes back to your motivation for doing it too. I mean, are you doing it to grow your business? Or are you doing it to help others and build community? Yeah. And from what I hear from you, and you know, we talked a little bit about things. It's more of, you know, we're not looking at this for us. We're trying to better the community, and I think you're going to have returns from that. Just a natural return.
And we plan on raising our kids here, and you know, I got a little boy now, so I plan on raising him here, and you know, at least for that, that's the idea now. So why wouldn't you want to grow the community? But for so long, we truly did just focus on, hey, we're trying to grow the business. How can we grow the business? It never was, how can we impact the community?
It was a selfish mindset.
It was. It very much was. And it was somewhat, you know, financially driven. It was, you know, it was a lot of selfish intent with it. And again, we got super stressed out because of that. And I think we kind of hit the breaking point. It was like, hey, we're either done with this or... Yeah, I was ready to throw it in. Yeah,
well, I'm glad y'all are here. So don't be
I appreciate it. So the last thing we like to do is, we've asked this on every podcast. Mm-hmm. So again, we decided to call the podcast, you know, En Route, just because we're always trying to grow and move forward. And again, we're going to ask you the same question. This will probably go on for every podcast, just because I think it's important for people to hear. I like to hear everybody's perspective on what works for them. So what are like 3 ideas or values that you think are the most important for growing yourself on a personal level, and also, since you're a pastor, spiritually?
That's a good question. All right, you may have to repeat that in a second.
Hey, I can't repeat questions.
I got you.
All right. So 3 of my personal values.
Like if you were there with somebody and it was, say it was your last day on earth and you were like, hey, you know, here's the 3 things I want to give you that I learned through my life. Like, what would those 3 values be?
Number 1, man, is love and love deeply. And what I mean by that is like, you know, I've always been taught love God, love your family, and then love the church as a pastor. I've been taught that, you know, don't put the church in front of your family. And I've tried very hard to do that as a dad. And I love deeply. I try to love people deeply. And what I mean by that is I try to get to know them, try to build relationships with them, try to just enjoy life each day, you know. And in the end, you know, when I was younger, you asked me that question, I'd have said, man, it's to, you know, make money and to, you know, achieve and do this. I want to have my, you know, name on something, you know, somewhere that I achieved all this. And, you know, now to me, it's like, you know, that's not what's important. What's important the most is, you know, whenever I'm dying one day, I don't want to be dying alone. I want my family around me. Oh, yeah. And I want the people that I love around me. And so, you know, to me, loving people deeply is probably the greatest of all for me. Something that keeps me grounded is my relationship with God. I mean, it's something that I do not just because of who I am as a pastor, but it's who I am as a person, and so I work on that relationship. Sometimes I'm better at working on that relationship than other times. I'll be honest, you get tired and weary at times being in ministry. It can be hard. It's not a bed of roses, I mean, anytime you deal with people, life can be difficult at times, and everybody has an opinion, and they're not afraid to share it with you. But
true.
But I have to find my worth in God, instead of in people, and I try to live. When you're transitioning churches and you're trying to revitalize and make some change, you're going to make some people upset with you. You're going to have people come knock on your door and fuss at you. We can't do things like this. This is different from what we've always done. And those are the times where you have to realize, you have to reflect on your calling, what God has called you to do. You have to reflect on who you are in Him, and if you are being faithful to who He has called you to be. And, at the end of the day, that's who I have to answer to. I don't have to answer to people and their preferences. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to answer to God, and if I did what He had called me to do. And so, two of my guiding perspectives, two of them are, loving deeply, loving God, following Him the best I can follow Him. I'm not perfect, man. I mess up every day of my life. I sometimes fuss at my kids when I shouldn't. I may treat my wife not like I should at times, and I may see someone in the grocery store and not remember their name. I mean, it happens.
That's me on a daily basis.
And there are times, but I strive to do my best.
Yeah.
And probably the third principle or guiding value in my life is serving. We sort of hit on all those, but I went on my first mission trip whenever I was 5 years old, man. I went with my dad, and I'll never forget that trip. I mean, it was into the mountains of Tennessee where there wasn't running water at that time in some of those homes, and electricity and things like. And they may still not have some in some of those areas that we were at, but. I remember staying at an old fish camp there, and
did you hear any banjos playing?
No. If I did, I would have liked it at that time. Oh, that's cool. What is that? That was before Deliverance came
I was about to say.
But that was a bug that was implanted in me early in my life. And I had a brother that was disabled. He couldn't walk or talk. And I've always felt like I was 13 months younger than him, but I was always, I grew, and he ended up being about the mentality of a 6-month-old his whole life. And, was confined to he was in a wheelchair and those type of things. And so I was always, that was back in the time where, you didn't see people with disabilities in public as much. And I was always sort of the protector for him. I sort of made sure, if people were staring at him and stuff, and that happened. I mean, people would just, oh, what's wrong with that kid? And, he didn't talk, but he mooed. He made noises like that. And so he sort of had
you had to speak for him.
You had to see.
You had to kind of take up for him. Yeah, for sure.
And I guess through that, helping him, raising him, and him and being in my life, I learned a lot about unconditional love, loving people no matter where they are in their life. And I was around a lot of people growing up and with disabilities and various things, and I always saw my parents serve. They were good models for me. They went and they were presidents of different civic clubs and things of that nature that did service in the community and, were very involved in the church. And so it taught me, hey, this is something important. And so that's just been a love of mine. I've learned that if there's a time whenever I get burnout, a time where I need to refresh my soul and refresh me, man, I go and serve somewhere, make a difference. It may be at a food soup kitchen or somewhere just to refuel who I am, and so it makes a difference to me. So
yeah, I think that is true. Serving is just, and I haven't, the church we were going to, we were serving a pretty good bit, and we haven't done it in a while, and you get that kind of void. There for a while, like even if it's something small as helping people park at a church. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything major.
Just smile and
church. It can
smile and greet someone as they walk
down the road and pick up some trash. I mean, there's so many ways, and I think that can go so far. And really, I feel like there's probably a decent amount of people in Forsyth that are doing it. There's just not a lot of light shined on it. There's a couple people we make, like the Beautify Forsyth people, and
little things, even just like that. I mean,
yeah. So I really feel like, man, that is another thing with the podcast I would love to shine more light on as we go. Is just who are the people that are actually doing some of this work that is not, they're not getting the publicity,
right?
Yeah, and I think again you're right. It is so huge. And I think this has been an eye-opening experience for us, just doing these videos and these podcasts and stuff, just meeting new people and seeing that side of it. So
yeah, there's a lot of good things going on in Forsyth. I mean, people, care about this community and they want to make a difference. I think sometimes the tradition of the community may hold it back a little bit in a sense, but the tradition is also good in a sense. I mean, I love that my kids are being raised in somewhere like Forsyth, but there's always growing pains and things of that nature. You have to. The area tends to be growing pretty fast. It seems like the county.
Oh yeah, I think we talk about this a lot, but I think there's a boom coming. I really do. I feel like in the next 5 years, this place is going to look completely different, and not in a bad way. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to look like a McDonald's,
but it needs. I think it needs to happen.
It does.
I mean, especially being an interstate community. Yeah. I mean, that's.
We need a Cracker Barrel. Okay.
This
Cracker Barrel, Chick-fil-A.
We do need more restaurants.
So I'm gonna go on and say it live. I don't like no Cracker Barrel.
I don't like Cracker Barrel. I think that's why me and you have become friends over the years. We both agreed that we never really cared to go to Cracker Barrel.
I picked that Holiday Inn breakfast.
That's funny.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and it's one of those things where just getting a different perspective on, especially from being at a church that's had so much of a foundation here in Forsyth and has been here for so long.
And you being an outsider coming into that too.
Yeah, and just seeing, I know you said that you've had some struggles with it, but at the same time you've made some forward progress, and I think that's huge. And again, just a sign that Forsyth is moving, in the county itself, whatever, is moving forward, and even the church. I think the church is definitely going through a stage where you're going to see more and more changes like that. And I feel like the church is a little outdated for the time it's in, and I think you're starting to see a lot of that. And what that looks like, I don't know. That's not me to judge that, but I love hearing your perspective on all that, and just appreciate you coming out and just
Absolutely.
Thank you for. I know the first time you came in here, when you actually didn't try to lie to us who you were.
He didn't lie. We just didn't realize.
When we actually knew who you were.
When you left.
What do you mean lie? What are you talking about? When I came in after I lost weight.
Oh yeah. That next morning, me and him looked at each other. I looked at Patrick. I said, Did you realize that was Hambric yesterday? And he was like, no.
So for all the viewers, we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah,
and he popped in, and
he had lost this 60 pounds.
He lost all this weight and just looked different, and we didn't know who it was until he started talking about First Baptist, and we're like, oh man. And then after he left, me and Gator were both like, hey, was that was Hambric, right? Like,
well, they covered it very well. Just know that. I would have never known you didn't know who I was unless a little birdie hadn't told
somebody had to tell. Not naming any names on here.
West Cone.
West Cone. But yeah, just thank you for the first time you came in. You were just, I think we talked for like 2 hours the first time you came in here, and it was
y'all were like, get out of here, dude. We got work to do.
It was some good conversation.
You're wondering if your orders are getting delayed, it's because of it.
We're already past. I'm supposed to be printing shirts right now. Sorry, Five Below. But yeah, just thank you for being the individual that you are, and that you don't come across as that, like, just you're very open as a pastor to be able to talk to you, and just as a friend and as just anybody in the community. I would have never known that you were a pastor of a church, and I respect that. I really do. Like, I really respect that.
I think that's what anywhere needs. So
one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten is, you know what, you're real. And I mean, people are like, what's that mean? Well, I get it, because I've been on the other end of that, where you see the pastor that's sort of up on the pedestal, and you can't touch, and you gotta respect the office type of thing. And I personally, I would rather be known as real, a person that you can sit down and talk with and have a cup of coffee with and enjoy conversation, and we can talk about a lot of different things together. And so yeah, man, I appreciate y'all having me.
Absolutely. And sorry for being last minute. We're trying to get caught up on these things. So it's like, hey, can you be here tomorrow?
We're planning out a little better.
Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right.
Is your camera rolling?
Yeah, my camera's
We're having more camera issues, so if you want to donate some camera equipment, we're still
we're still thinking about that GoFundMe.
We're using two cell phones now, and it's working out. But whatever, it's working. You got the camera there. If you want to just let everybody know, and if it's not on or it doesn't get work, then you'll just come from your side eye from the big camera.
Be fine, yeah.
Just let everybody know what you got going on, First Baptist, and anything you want in your personal life. Just what you got going on.
All right. Well, we've got a lot going on at First Baptist, and we are trying to sort of change the perspective of the church. A lot of people have known First Baptist through the years as the rich white church or whatever in town, the traditional church in town, and all of those type of things. And we want to be known as the church that loves people, that makes a difference in people's lives, a place that you can come together in worship, and you can grow together, you can connect with each other, and go out and make a difference in our community. And that's sort of our mantra around the church, it's worship, grow, connect, go. And we want to try to get that instilled in people. And, the last few weeks we've been talking about love, at our church a lot on Sundays. And we've been talking about how love is an action. It's not just a word, it's something that you do. And we're trying to sort of change that process, make people realize that, we are to make a difference where we're planted. We're to make a difference in our community. We're to make a difference in people's lives, and we're to grow in our relationship with others and with Christ, and be His hands and feet. And so that's sort of our thought. We're trying to take the church out into the community, instead of everybody just coming in and us being in this protection mode and things of that nature. We're trying to make a difference, and that's our goal. We want to do some things that may not be conventional First Baptist ideas, and we want to do some things that make a difference in Forsyth and the surrounding community, and even in our world today. Personally, man, this past week has been pretty cool for me. It's been, I'm a granddad now. I'm too young to be a granddad. I know y'all can tell that by the camera, but my oldest daughter had our first grandchild, Lily Ann, and it's been interesting. I remember the other night she was crying, fussy, and I said to my wife, I said, there's something just different about being a grandparent and hearing the cries. It doesn't seem to bother you near as much as I remember being a parent, And so it's pretty cool, being that. And I still have the children at home. I still have 2 children at home. And so, it's sort of a weird place to be, raising kids and also being a grandparent. But hey, that's where we're at in life, and we're excited about it. And so, but that's a little bit about me. If you don't have a church home, if you are looking for a place, they didn't tell me I could do this, but I'm going to.
Hey. Not a church.
Go ahead.
If you're looking for one, man, we'd love to have you come check us out.
Or if you're not looking for a church home, but
if
you like
just
to
want
garden,
help,
if You just want to garden.
You just want to roll up your sleeves, man, and get your fingers dirty a little bit and help us out, man. We'd love to have you a part of that. But, we have worship at 9. That's our traditional service. We have a new contemporary service we began. Starts at 11, and we have Sunday school at 10 in the middle. So we've got a lot going on. Love to see you if you don't have a place. If you have any questions, call Gator. He has all the answers.
I try my best.
Well, I think that's going to do it for episode 3. Again, having a pastor of a church here, this doesn't mean by any means that we're downing any other church. Again, this is about a community.
I can't even get them to come and check us out. I've been trying.
I actually showed up one morning.
What?
I did.
I told you.
But
I told you.
But there was so much going on.
He backed away when he saw West Cone going.
When I got there, I pulled up at like 5 or 10 minutes past 11. So it was like 11:05, 11:10. I was like, okay, first time going, I'm not going to go in here being late and not knowing where to go. And I actually, Buddy West Cone, I tried calling him, and I guess he was in there and didn't want to answer his phone. I don't know. Yeah. But I did try to show up. It was recently, but
well, come check it out again.
I'll
and if you're 5 minutes late, we'll let you in the door. I promise.
They lock the door 1 minute after.
No, we don't lock the door. You come on in.
Yeah, but again, this is not about one church. It's not about one business. Even restaurants, churches. It's not about a competition. It's about community, and the more that all that can come together as a community and not a building, just like 7-5. We don't want to be a building. We want to be part of the community. I think that is the goal to making it a better place. So. Yeah, again, thank you. That's going to be it for episode number 3, and we will see you for, I guess...
Episode 4?
4. I don't know what's coming next Thursday.
Yeah, we're just winging it.
Next Thursday, we have a really awesome video coming up, so definitely tune in next Thursday, guys. So thank you again, and we'll see you then.
Thanks.